I have a 10 foot by 6 foot workbench in my basement. Above it, I installed some plug-in type shop lights, which leads me to this mess. This leads to a power strip that's currently acting as my light switch. It's plugged into another extension cord, which runs to an outlet. I want a real light switch to control these lights and be on the same circuit as the rest of the basement lights. All the basement lights are controlled by this quad box. I want to add an additional switch right next to it. First, I took the cover off to see what I'm dealing with. No neutral lines to be seen. Since I had it open, I removed one of the knockouts. Then I removed the knockouts to the new box. Now I need to cut a short piece of 1/2 inch EMT conduit. Normally I'd use a tool like these, but if you don't have one, an angle grinder with a cutoff wheel works just fine. Just remember to deburr the conduit if you do it this way. This is a compression connector. It hooks up your conduit to the boxes. The gear-looking ring goes on the inside of the box. For now, just make the rings finger tight. On the other side is a nut and a compression ring. First slide on the nut, next the compression ring, and then slide in the conduit. When you tighten the nut, it tightens the ring around the conduit, holding it secure. Mark out where you need to drill the holes and remove the box. Earlier I mentioned there were no neutral lines in the existing box. I'll have to run one from somewhere else on the same circuit. Luckily, right above the switches there's a light socket that I could tap into. Using a metal fish, I ran it from the box to the existing light switches. I'm using 12 gauge solid cord wire that I had left over from another project. Since I'm extending the neutral line, I'm using a white wire. Loop it around the end of the fish and then secure it with electrical tape. You only want to use just enough to secure it. Too much tape and you'll run the risk of getting it stuck. I also suggest using a wire pulling lubricant. This stuff is pretty much industrial grade KY for cables. Next, pull the wire through with the fish. About 6 to 8 inches of wire inside the box should be sufficient. Cut and strip the end of the wire. I'm going to make a pigtail connection. I needed to cut a small section of wire and strip both ends. I unhooked the neutral wire from the light socket. Next, I took the 3 neutral wire ends and twisted them together. This is my personal preference, but generally you don't have to do this when using twist caps. Next, put a little bit of electrical tape around the bottom of the cap, and then reattach the loose wire back into the light socket. Reassemble the box. Back to the original switches. Here you can see the incoming hot wire for all the switches. All we need to do is extend this wire over to the new switch. After taking apart the switches, we now have a spot to extend our incoming wire. Before we run any wires, we need to secure the new switch box. I'm using these Tapcon concrete anchors with a drill bit type and size that is specified in the front of the box. I've used them before and they seem to work pretty well. Now time for drilling. When doing this, it's best to have a hammer drill. Since I don't do a whole lot of masonry work, I can get by with a normal drill, but it just takes longer. The instructions on the box will tell you how deep you need to drill, but generally you would drill about a 1/4 inch past the length of the anchor. I found that drilling 2 holes was sufficient. Once the holes are drilled, I put the box back and secured it with the anchors. Using a wrench, I torqued down the compression nuts on the conduit. Next, I secured the rings with a punch and a hammer. They do sell special wrenches for this, but this works just fine. I ran the white wire into the new box. To bend conduit, you need a special pipe benders like the ones you see here. Each one is for a specific sized conduit. They are marked appropriately. Place the pipe in the bender like so, and slowly pull the handle until you have the bend that you want. I attached another compression fitting to the top of the new box. I decided to put another box here to make pulling cables easier. It also helps with future expansion. On the bottom of the box, I used a 90-degree elbow fitting. This particular one was a poor choice, as it made it difficult to pull a wire. I should have used either one with a long bend or a pulling elbow that has a detachable access plate. One thing you need to be mindful of is that you are only allowed to have no more than 360 degrees in bending total for a given run. This could be 4 90-degree bends or 8 45-degree bends. In reality, I wouldn't even go near this. It gets too difficult to pull your wires through. Next, I cut the conduit down to the size I needed. Then I secured it to the boxes. I had a bag of these 3/4 inch conduit hangers left over from my last project. They work just fine for 1/2 inch conduit too. You don't need to go overboard with these, just use as needed. I hung the final box that will hold my outlets. I prepped the boxes. Since I have a straight run, I use a coupler here. It also helps to get the conduit to fit if your boxes are already secured to their locations. I extended the hotline over to the new switch box by extending off the second screw on the switch. I taped around the switch and closed up the box. I couldn't get the pull tape past the elbow even when using pliers. I had to resort to using pull string. I taped some pull string to the fish and pushed it through as far as I can go. I used pliers again to grab a hold of the string and pull it into the box. I clamped the string down and then pulled the fish backwards through the conduit. Pull string is pretty cheap and comes in tubes. Since it's kind of tight in the elbow, I'm only going to pull one wire at a time. Take your wire and bend a hook at the end. Next, take your pull string, do not cut the string yet, tie a knot on the hook. Use as little tape as you can to keep the knot from slipping off. Don't layer too much, it might get stuck. Again, use the cable glue. With the wires through, now it's a good time to cut the pull string. You can leave the pull string in the conduit. By doing this, you're doing the next person a favor if they ever have to go back and do more work. I trimmed the wires to length. Since we placed the switch on the hot side of the circuit, I just connected the loose white wires together. Next, I attach a grounding wire to the back of the box using a green screw. The other end will also attach to a green screw on the new switch. Newer switches will have a grounding screw on it. Then I connected the black wires to the switch and then closed everything up. If you knocked out too many holes in your boxes, then you need to plug them. I repeated the wire pulling process to the outlet box for the lights. The box you see here won't have anything on it, so I just connected the light colored wires together. I close up the box with a blank faceplate. Since we're dealing with a 15 amp circuit, which is common for lighting circuits, we can't install a 20 amp plug like the one you see here. Notice the sideways slot? That's for equipment that uses 15 or more amps. What I need are these outlets that are limited to 15 amp use. This will prevent anyone from installing a 20 amp equipment into this outlet. To assist in wiring up the outlet, the screws are color coded. Light screws are for neutral wires and dark screws are for hot wires. If it's not color coded, then the neutral line goes to the screws closest to the wider of the two slots. To ground the outlets, I created a pigtail with some green wire. To wire up the outlets, you don't need pigtails for the white and black wires. All you need are some short wires to run from the second screw of one outlet to connect to the other outlet of the same side. I flipped the breaker and tested the outlets. Next, I plugged in the lights. Flip the switch. And my lights work.